Just a little intro pound for all you out there also enjoying the green candles. This is Bitcoin breaking that yellow line. We're going to talk about it in this video, breaking a really crazy piece of data on this chart. This daily candle, still 9 hours, right around 9 hours left. Going to break that down in this video. And then we have ADA. ADA just continues to put in these green candles to the upside. When is it going to retrace? When is it going to cool down for just a second? I want to discuss it in this video. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I want to start with Bitcoin because there's all of these charts. There's something kind of special happening. And this is becoming a story that I think is very worth noting. If you remember in the last video, I was discussing these lines, right? So this line right here is the blue dotted line. This is kind of when Bitcoin in the last cycle around this time exited and kind of just started to escape these big moving averages on the weekly. You can see Bitcoin moving to the upside. This time around, you see this happening a little bit earlier, right? We put a yellow line right here the other day in the other day's video. You can see it right here. There's that yellow line, Bitcoin escaping. This green line, this was Bitcoin escaping all the way back here in 2016 to the upside, right? So Bitcoin obviously is doing this a little bit earlier this cycle around, but here's where it becomes very interesting. That is to say, Bitcoin still has room to the upside if we're even looking at overbought type of area data on this chart. Look at back in 2016. I discussed this in a previous video. Bitcoin went all the way to around 85 on this overbought chart at that green line to the upside that we just looked at before consolidating into halving. That just gives you a sense, not that it's going to happen again, not that it's definitely going to repeat, but that gives you a sense. Bitcoin just entered overbought. And in these overbought environments over the years, you can see how Bitcoin really gets up there, right? So Bitcoin has some room to the upside on the weekly to continue to the upside, but it kind of all does start over here on the daily. This is, and I did a video yesterday discussing a little bit of caution right now in terms of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin kind of just threw that data out the window. That is this data. We were getting higher highs and higher lows at this area of consolidation for Bitcoin. You can see the current daily candle just threw it out the window, but we were getting those higher highs, higher lows on Bitcoin while Bitcoin on the momentum oscillator falling. But check this out. That fall, that lower high type of fall on the slower moving momentum oscillator, that is the RSI here, was broken on the current daily candle. Even in this context, it's important to see how this daily candle closes for Bitcoin. Again, 9 hours, a lot can happen in 9 hours, but check this out. We were very much comparing this move back here. This is just a typical bearish divergence type of move. The higher highs, higher lows on the price, and then the lower highs on RSI. This is what we were looking at yesterday for that to potentially repeat, and then Bitcoin just to fall. Well, Bitcoin broke upwards. Now we're at this upper trend line that we've been tracking for quite a long time. And this is a massive upper trend line that goes all the way back here to August. We've been tracking this pattern of consolidation, this rising wedge for Bitcoin, but this other just these couple swing highs that Bitcoin has put in over the months, over the course of the year, Bitcoin's testing the third basic swing high of this upper trend line, while on the daily chart, it is an overbought area. So today's daily candle is going to be really intriguing to see how it closes. Can Bitcoin actually close above this yellow line, or is there going to be some obvious resistance in play at this yellow line, at this higher high on this macro? Remember, if Bitcoin can manage to continue to get separation from these trend lines, this pattern that we've been tracking for a long time, remember, the target to the upside is around $50,000. We broke to the downside. There's a little bit of a fake out. We have a busted pattern in play, target to the upside, $50,000. The more separation Bitcoin gets from these trend lines, the better. Meaning, if Bitcoin can cruise to the upside, then we have room to the downside for consolidation, right? For Bitcoin to take a chill pill for a second. So this daily candle is kind of important to me in terms of what happens next. And we talked about yesterday's video, the main massive falling wedge, also around a $50,000 target for Bitcoin. You can see Bitcoin has just been really kind of on its way. Higher highs, higher lows. That's what's happening with these wedges here that we've been tracking. And right now, Bitcoin testing a really key resistance as it relates to this yellow upper trend line. It's going to be crazy to see if Bitcoin can manage to explode through that yellow trend line and continue to a higher high on the overbought oscillator, the momentum oscillator, that is to say the RSI. So we'll see. We're got to continue tracking how today's candle closes. 9 hours left on Bitcoin. That's what I'm watching, at least for today. We go over here. I want to note something before we pivot to ADA on the Bitcoin dominance chart. I'm continuing to just keep this in mind for Bitcoin dominance. Another swing high, a last swing high before halving. On the macro, it's a lower high. You can see Bitcoin dominance trending down over the years. A couple of things could just make this happen. Number one, Bitcoin ETF, spot ETF is approved. Bitcoin starts outperforming altcoins in the short to midterm. Boom, it hits that area. Number two, crypto markets in general, because they are overbought, start consolidating. As we know, in moves to the downside, altcoins kind of underperform against Bitcoin. And in moves to the upside, it's vice versa, right? Altcoins outperform Bitcoin. So if crypto's falling, Bitcoin might be a little bit safer of a play in that short to midterm of crypto falling, and this could lead Bitcoin dominance into this lower high area. It's a lower high Fibonacci from last cycle, and this could be really the story, the end of the Bitcoin dominance story coming into play prior to the next halving, prior to the next bull market, where we know Bitcoin dominance doesn't do that well in bull markets. So that's Bitcoin. Let's pivot over to ADA. This is ADA on the weekly. The ADA weekly chart looking too good, everybody. It really is. We have this move now where, and we still have 3 days, 10 hours left of this weekly candle for ADA, but the 50-week moving average, we have this move where ADA is around 20% of separation from that 50-week moving average, the blue line. The 20-week down here, it's around 35% from the green line, the 20-week. Those are the pivot points for these cycles, right? In bull markets, we want to see ADA above those moving averages, just cruise into the upside. And in bear markets, we see ADA seeing resistance at these moving averages and falling to the downside. It's the pivot. It's just that pivot point that we've been waiting for months. And in order to pivot, ADA has to break above those areas. And we want to see as much separation from those areas as possible. And that's what we're seeing play out on the charts. It started to happen back here, but in terms of cycles, that was early, right? If you take it from a cycle perspective, look at these red boxes. This ADA move back here, and this was earlier in January, was very similar to this move. But notice what happened last cycle. It fell one last time, right? And so it kind of did fall one last time. What's happening on ADA right now, which is so powerful, is this divergence in terms of what happened last cycle. That is to say this. We've talked about this before. ADA, you can see after the red box leading into the Bitcoin halving, ADA finally started making a nice move to the upside, breaking finally the 20-week, the 50-week. Well, ADA's making that powerful move this time earlier. We're still in this red box in terms of where we are in the timeline, in terms of cycles. ADA is making a move earlier. And just please note, we're not at 3 cents like we were then. This move is happening at this similar type of the cycle, and we're at 30 plus cents right now. Started at around 24 cents. We're at 38 cents right now as I do the video. So it's happening earlier. It's happening at a way higher price, and it's happening in this world where the Cardano ecosystem is set to have its first DeFi crypto cycle. Probably do another video if ADA continues to move, and we can talk more about that. But this is so bullish for ADA. I just can't help but say that. It just is. It's bullish data. And there's other altcoins, I'm sure, doing very similar things in terms of this cycle for them. Going over to the daily chart, here's where we start evaluating what is up with this move. I start getting, especially when we get the overextension from the 50-day moving average right now above 30%, when we start hitting 20%, 20 plus, I start kind of being like, okay, let's start looking out for some type of consolidation. The 20 to 30% area, that's that area for me where I'm like, all right, maybe some type of pullback. Well, ADA right now is from the 50 around 40% overextended. I'm being very cautious. I want to see ADA keep going. If you remember the other day, I did a video talking about this entire move. Is ADA just going to keep putting daily candle, and just hit the 45-cent target? Remember, the 45-cent target is this target out of this falling wedge. I said I don't think it's going to happen. That was a few pennies ago. I still don't think it's going to happen. I think we need some consolidation, but this is kind of becoming fun to track. But that overextension type of story, it happens to the downside when ADA is breaking to the downside. Here's ADA from the 50-day moving average. You can see 26%. What happens? It right here. It snaps back right into the 50-day moving average. And if it's not going to snap back, you can even see, here's another example. It's falling from the 50. If it's not going to snap back, it at least starts cruising sideways, allowing the 50-day to pull into it. The same is true to the upside. When there's this overextension, and here we have some overextension back here, ADA, 30-some%, it falls into the moving averages. There we are. It's happening right now. All the while, if you look at ADA on the RSI, it's overbought. And it's almost at like these historical levels of overbought. Check out how overbought it is. This is giving an example of how bullish ADA is right now. And that is to say this. The last time ADA was this overbought was in the bull market. So, and not only just that last time in August 2021, but also this time back here in February 2021, where the bull market was kind of in its earlier phases, right? That's the last time ADA was this overbought. And when it is overbought, it does consolidate, right? You can see back here, ADA started putting in the bearish divergence and just kind of cruising to the side, cruising sideways. I remember how choppy that was back then. But same thing here. Consolidation to the downside, it puts in another swing high, and then it's really just kind of bearish. It's entering the bear market, right? I'm not saying we're entering a bear market, but my point is now that we're not in a bull market yet either, but we're in this trading pattern where ADA is overbought, consolidation is okay. In terms of to the upside, now that ADA, it's not even that far away from the target to the upside, the 45-cent target. It's a 15-cent target. It's a 15% to the upside target. It's 45 cents. I'm going to track it. I'm going to see if the ADA bulls just shock everyone. This thing just keeps going. That's a target to the upside. But otherwise, you all know I've been tracking ADA in this move, and I've just been saying I'm waiting for structure. And we might get the consolidation. We might get the cool off in terms of the RSI, and that's not a bad thing. Cool offs are not a bad thing. It's not going to be, in my view, this cool off where we're entering a bear market. It would just be some type of cool off where ADA just is retracing to really key areas. And it could be dramatic. It could be painful. It really could. But let's talk about what that might look like. You can even go to a 6-hour actually for some trend line context. You take this swing low where ADA broke out in the end of October and kind of just put this trend line, this other swing low. We have this trend line. We have this revisit in potential play for around 30 to 32 cents. You go back to a daily chart. What is that? What's at 30, 32 cents? What's in that range? Well, we have the 20-day moving average around 31 cents. We have the 200-day around 30 cents. So right there is that lower trend line area, right? And ADA doesn't have to necessarily fall right to it. ADA can just kind of trickle down, again, pull into these moving averages. Here's the 50-day moving average. Maybe it doesn't even touch the 50-day, but it just pulls into it. Maybe it does touch the 50-day. I'm looking for retracement. I'm always ready for it. Target to the upside. If it doesn't happen, 45 cents. Notice where 45 cents is. It's this crucial macro cycle pivot point. It's breaking that swing high that happened all the way back in spring around 45, 46 cents. That would be ADA if it can manage to break above that area, putting in a higher high, a true higher high that hasn't happened in years, a true higher high that hasn't happened in years, everybody. And that happening at this part of the cycle, as we approach Bitcoin halving, this is huge for ADA. But notice there's always room for consolidation. I want to point out real quick the ADA dominance chart. You can see ADA dominance again ahead of the game in terms of making this move to the upside. Very similar area in terms of ADA dominance in the last cycle, but a little bit, I think it's a little bit ahead of the game just looking at this. But just remember, ADA dominance made a nice move, broke above the 20, approached the 50, and then consolidated. We might be in a similar type of deal. Breaking above the 20, approaching the 50, we might get some consolidation. Be prepared for volatility. I'm enjoying the gains. I really am. I'm really enjoying this daily chart, everything that's happening, the story that's playing out. But just remember, in my view, we're not in the bull market yet. We're trying to put in that pivot point, and in that process, it's going to be really nice moves to the upside. But I think there's going to be also really big moves to the downside to be prepared for as we do prepare for that next cycle, which is all the way over here. So these are my thoughts, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate you. Turn the notifications on. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Hit the like button. Your support means a ton to me. We're having some fun here as we kind of gear into the next bull market. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.